Recently, I had a pretty big failure, and it made me think about failure in all areas of my life, including in my sketchbook. And I wanted to talk through it with all of you. And while I process this, here are a couple recent Peachtober prompts that I've been working on. So, this particular instance of failure was a singing audition. And to be completely honest, I totally bombed it. I sang a song that I wasn't super familiar with, and the accompaniment tricked me up so much that I even forgot the words and had to start over. Um, it was very humiliating, and I was feeling really, really down on myself from such a public and sudden failure. And in times like these, I hear many people say that, well, at least you tried, and, growth is painful. But I honestly did not feel like those were true statements. It's hard to feel like you've grown when you just feel shame and negativity. And especially when you're in the trenches of failure, it's really almost impossible to see the growth that you're doing in that moment. It just feels horrible, honestly. It doesn't feel like you're moving towards anything. It feels like you've been pushed 10 steps backwards. So in this instance, I suppose I proved to myself that I can survive one of the worst auditions of my life, but it really didn't feel like I gained anything. So I was experiencing these emotions so deeply, and it kind of led me to compare that audition with the mistakes I make in my sketchbook. And when I make a mistake in my sketchbook, there are three things that I usually do. One of three things. I can either erase the mistake, if possible. I could go with the flow and use the mistake as part of the piece. Or I just completely give up and turn the page and have a fresh start. Making mistakes in my sketchbook doesn't feel like the world is ending. So how can I reframe this audition and other failures in my life in the same way as my sketchbook to make it so they feel more manageable? So looking at my three sketchbook failure options, comparing that to my audition, I can't really erase the audition. It happened. Many people heard me fail. And really only time will let it fade slightly, although at this point it's hard to believe ever forgetting about the experience. But the audition happened. I need to accept that it happened. I can't erase this mistake. So if I can work on trying to accept that it happened, then just like with ink or paint in my sketchbook, I can try to incorporate it as a part of my work, as a part of my practice. So I need to be able to look at this mistake and see what I can do better next time. Adjust my practice and incorporate the truth of this failure into my journey. So personally, in this example, the song I sang was simply not a good fit for me. I sang it in order to fit the musical requirements of the audition, which was looking for a certain style of music, but it was one I was not familiar with. And to be honest, I did not practice with an accompanist, and that showed. So I need to sing songs that I'm more comfortable with. And I'm also considering working with a vocal coach a few times before my next audition so that I have plenty of practice with an accompanist and I feel solid in my song choices. Just like in my sketchbook, I need to turn my mistakes into a permanent fixture and find a way to make it fit. And I actually find this one of the most fun things about using ink and paint in my sketchbook, especially ink. I absolutely love the permanence of it. And I actually really enjoy finding creative solutions for my mistakes. You can't erase ink, and so you're kind of forced to use creative problem solving to make all of the marks work with the rest of the final piece. And it doesn't always work out how I like on the page, but similar to some of my mistakes here in this piece that you see with the raccoon, I still enjoy the process. And I really hope that I can somehow keep that mindset in the mistakes with my music and other areas of my life. So if those first two strategies don't work, the final option when I make a big mistake in my sketchbook is to just turn the page and try again. Just call it and move on. Because sometimes the mistakes just can't be saved, or you've done what you can this time around, but ultimately you just need a blank slate and need to start again. And there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly don't feel bad about just moving forward in my sketchbook if something's not working out. A sketchbook is a place to just explore and create, and even if you're working on a final canvas, it's okay to just paint it over and try again. But when it comes to something like this audition, it is challenging to turn the page. I spend way too much time looking back at my mistakes and wishing I could take it back and change it and imagining how it could have gone if I had done this or that. But that mistake is there no matter what. Sometimes trying to fix it can make it worse. And I just need to move on to the next page and try again. For music and theater, there's always another audition to try. There's always new shows to look forward to. And it takes a lot more time for me, but I do need to put my failures in the past and move on to a new opportunity. I just recently this week had another audition that was much more promising, and I used the lessons I learned from last time. I sang a song I was comfortable with, and I practiced a lot more for this audition, so I was feeling more confident. I still feel that sting of the failure from the previous audition, but this new one was really healing for me, at least a little bit. And so I would encourage you to keep moving forward, try again, and don't just end on a sour note. Eventually, we will feel that sting of the failure less and less. I've realized while meditating on all of this, one of the hardest parts about failing in auditions is that it is so public. There are people around you to witness your mistakes. But in your sketchbook, at least, it's private, and we can choose the terms of how we share it. So you don't even have to share your mistakes if you don't want to. Unfortunately, though, all of my auditions are performed in front of other people. And after many years of participating in theater and music ensembles, I'm still not sure how to cope with that in the most graceful way. But I do hope I can learn to, because no matter if you're working on the stage or in a sketchbook, mistakes and failure are inevitable, and we need to employ these and other tactics to learn how to deal with them. Failure is incredibly painful. It can be severely demoralizing, and I'm not going to say everything is okay when it feels like the world is falling apart when we trip up. But the only way out is through. So feel what you need to, grieve what you need to, and when you're ready, keep turning the page. Because there is so much more you can give. There is so much more you can do. And even when it doesn't feel like you can ever forget it, there will come a time when this mistake doesn't hurt so much. Keep creating, keep going, and I'll talk to you soon.